Hey guys, Tactical.
Nicole sauce. Cheers.
So today we got a fun one.
Yeah.
Financial freedom.
It's all about affording the booze.
Yes, we'll go with that. So this one, I think in our current culture is kind of a big deal that a lot of people miss.
We are not taught to be financially fluent, and so we miss it.
Yes. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up to where like you were kind of responsible for your own money. So like if you earned money by mowing yards or whatever, you had cash in hand. And if you spin it, you didn't have it anymore. So you
I mean, it wasn't on one of these?
no, it didn't go on one of those. Those didn't exist when I was growing up.
Okay, fair enough. You're that old?
Pretty close too. I think when I was growing up, I think the only way you could get a credit card was to have like the American Express or whatever the other one was, and all the commercials were like when you were traveling overseas and stuff, and like half of the vendors didn't take credit cards. Like cash was still a thing back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of learned money from the time I was young. And I kind of, for me personally, I kind of ended up in a situation where I didn't make a lot of money. And so just the necessity of bills and have a cell phone and I've got to put gas in the truck. I was pretty much living paycheck to paycheck, and I managed to save a little bit of money. And then I got out of the Marine Corps and had a couple of jobs lined up, and all that money got used up, and I wound up with like $16 in my bank account that I couldn't even access because you had to have $20 in your account to make an ATM withdrawal. And I was like, this sucks.
That does suck.
So going forward, I struggled for a long time and still kind of living paycheck to paycheck. But I gradually started to build money back up. And then I finally got a couple of breaks and I got picked up for one job where I was able to save a lot of money. And part of the way I was able to do that was I knew I was going to be getting paid a lot, but I was going to have very low living expenses.
Right.
Put myself on a really stringent budget. I said, I'm giving myself $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And if at the end of the month I have $120 left in the account, I'm topping it back off to 500, and that's it for that month.
So you hid your money from yourself.
Exactly. And I think I went from, I think I had like $3,000 when I got there, and a year later I had like 30 something.
Okay, so how do you do that when you don't have a job where all your expenses are paid and you have a family to pay for, et cetera, et cetera?
It's difficult, and I look at some people and I'm like, I don't know why you're spending money on what you're spending money on. It's like when I look at that type of a situation, I'm like, before I got to where I am now, because most of my living expenses here are paid, but I was looking at like my electric bill.
Right.
Like, that's one of the biggest expenses that I have that is a flexible number. So like my rent was what it was. Like this much. I can't change that. But my electric bill I can change. So I was like, I can take a couple of cheap Mylar blankets and tape them over the windows in the rooms that I'm not using, shut the vents in those rooms, close the doors. I never go in there.
Mm-hmm.
So why do I need to cool or heat those rooms? And I knocked a lot down off of my electric bill. Even like in the summertime, or spring leading into summer, end of summer leading into fall, as soon as it was cool enough, I just shut the air conditioner off and opened up the doors. And it might be a little bit warmer than what I wanted it to be, but you get a cross breeze going through. It wasn't that bad, and I've got a $40 electric bill as opposed to 120.
Yeah, electricity is really easy to waste. I say sitting in my office with all the lights on, all of them. Okay, so let's break this down. So financial independence, it's great. It's aspirational. Probably a lot of people watching this are in a situation where they have some debt. They have expenses that are hard to get rid of, like fuel for the car, mortgage payment if they have a house, rent if they don't have a house, phone bill, maybe even a car payment. Some people have student debt. Let's say you're in that situation. How do you get started, in your opinion?
In my personal opinion, the first thing that I try to do is cut my output. So obviously, you've got to pay your mortgage, you've got to pay your student loan bills, you got to pay this and that and the other. But what am I spending money on that I don't have to? What a big one that most people do: coffee.
Coffee.
How many people do you know that get up and on their way to work, they stop somewhere and buy coffee?
Not very many, because I'm a coffee roaster and they buy coffee for me and they make their holler roast, man.
And I'm one of those people, but in normal society, how many people have you seen that do that? And
Yeah, I mean, I was just on a business trip last week and that might have happened a lot.
yeah, and so I mean, how much are people paying for a cup of coffee? Like,
$3 to $5.
I was
That's
gonna
what
say,
they're paying right now.
I think the last time that I stopped at a gas station on a regular basis and bought a cup of coffee, it was paying like $2.75.
Yeah.
So how many cups of coffee does it take to buy a bag of Hollow Roast? And how many cups of coffee do you get out of a bag of Hollow Roast?
Right.
So that's kind of my starting point, is like, what are you spending money on that you don't have to? How many times are you eating out?
So eating out's a big one. When I moved from Portland, Oregon, where I lived in a really awesome neighborhood with super like bars and restaurants, to here I have to drive 45 minutes. And so I just started cooking all the time. I used to spend, 20, $30 a night on dinner, 4 nights a week. It's
I
like you don't know me.
I can't even imagine spending $30 a night on dinner. Like,
Well, I have a six-figure job, man. Like, it's fine. You can afford it. Except for the problem is when you have a six-figure job, you do afford it. And then when you don't, what happens?
I mean, I was at the store Saturday. Today is Wednesday right now.
Yeah.
I splurged. I went deep. And I spent $50 for the week for groceries.
Nice.
And I mean, that's on top of everything that I already have here. But I mean, it begs the point. You start adding up the cups of coffee, the eating out, this, that, the other, not turning the lights out in your house. You start adding all these things up. When you start cutting stuff, you start having a surplus of money. You also end up being healthier because you're probably eating better, you're making better coffee, so forth and so on. And then the trick is taking what you're saving by not eating out or buying coffee or whatever, going to the movies, you wait for it to come out on, Amazon Prime or something Netflix or whatever people like to do. Things. But you take all of that and look at it and say, okay, this is how much I'm not spending. Can I put that towards my student loan or another debt? Or if I don't have any debt, start putting it in the savings. I mean, me personally, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use, and it has all of my financial stuff on there. And when I log on my bank account, like the numbers that are in, like whatever numbers in my savings account, that number doesn't mean anything because it's just one number. The only number that matters to me is the number that's at the bottom of my Excel spreadsheet, because that's the total. That accounts for all of my bank accounts, all of my paychecks, all of my bills, all of my expenditures, everything. So once everything is plus and minus and whatever else, you get a total number at the bottom, and that's the only number that matters.
Okay, but let's back up. You're where you are now. I am not where you are now. It's probably why you have me on this one today. So I'm older than you and starting in a different place than you, where I come into my whole financial independence thing with debt, right?
Yep.
So my total number on my Excel spreadsheet is freaking depressing, dude. It's hard to look at. So what I've done is I did the spreadsheet so I know that number. And then I have a monthly spreadsheet that's like, this is everything I've spent. This is everything that's come in. Is it plus or minus at the end of the month? And everything, and that includes a savings goal, right? And then I like hide the savings from myself. What I don't do is what most experts recommend, which is, at the end of that month, put it towards a specific debt until you do the snowball thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's Ramsey, right? Probably. Snowball. I can't hear you right now.
Yeah, it's the Dave Ramsey thing.
Yeah. So I tried that. Didn't work for me. What has worked for me is I aggressively save that stuff somewhere where I can't see it. And then, every couple of months I pay something off. In that system, I pay more interest because debt hangs around for a little bit longer. But what that gives me is a bigger cushion of savings from month to month. And because of the nature of what I do, like this month, I invoiced 20% of what I'll probably earn this year in 1 month. That's a great month. Next month, I'm probably going to invoice 5%. And so if I don't keep that savings cushion because of the ebb and flow of my income, I don't get anywhere. I end up like worse in debt because I pay off all the debt and then I have to use the cards to, like buy groceries. So I think when you're getting started in debt payoff, there's that reality check of the spreadsheet. Really important. You want to know your total debt. You want to know your monthly ins and outs. You want to push down on the expenses that you can push down on and figure out ways to push up the income if you can. And then realize that that $1,000 cushion that Dave Ramsey recommends is really great if you have a job. Some of us don't. Some of us have like a weird income stream. So you need a bigger cushion probably than $1,000 if you're in that situation.
Yeah. And I mean, I just did a video posted Monday, I think, on bug out bags. And one of the points that I did, that video was the concept of a bug out bag. And one of the things that I brought up was the fact that, everybody's bug out bag should be different because everybody's in a different situation. I'm single. I don't have kids. My bug out bag is not going to look the same as somebody who does have kids.
Right.
My income situation right now is different than yours. So my Excel spreadsheet, my savings philosophy, whatever, has to be different from yours because our income streams are different. Our expenditure streams are different. I do have a house that I own right now that I'm not living in. My method of paying the mortgage on that house is different than most people's. But I ended up in a situation where I was able to essentially do a handshake deal with somebody that was later put into a contract. And I know that every month I've got the money to cover the mortgage on that house, but not everybody's going to be in that situation.
Right.
Everybody's situation is going to be different. So you have to figure out what is your situation and what's going to work for you.
Yeah. And I guess if what would you say are like the first 3 steps to take if somebody's like, well, fudge, with a capital CK in there that I probably don't want to say on video. I'm screwed. I'm $90,000 in debt or $190,000 in debt. And right now my interest is maybe $20 less a month than what I'm earning. What would you tell them to do?
Probably the same thing that I just did.
What was that?
I just found out that I'm going to be unemployed this summer.
Yeah.
So one of the absolute first things that I did was a complete financial review. And I sat down and I took the normal Excel spreadsheet that I have that mostly I usually refer to it as my monopoly money. It's not any of my investments or anything like that. It's just like the money that I have coming in, money that I have going out, all that type of thing. So I took that Excel spreadsheet and I put everything on there. All of my investments, every ounce of silver that I have, anything and everything financially that I have, I put onto the Excel spreadsheet and did an analysis of what do I have, what are my expenditures going to look like. So that's the starting point. I mean, for some people, it's probably going to hurt. But it's something that if you don't do it, well, I knew a corpsman who was the corpsman during Vietnam. And he said that they would he was stationed on one of the ships. So it was a hospital ship they would fly wounded veterans out to. And he said they would get guys that had 3rd-degree burns from like napalm and whatnot. And one of the first things they had to do was scrub them, like to wash the burns. He said it was extremely painful, but if you don't do it, they're going to get infected and they're going to die. So it's a painful step sometimes, but the necessary step. And then after that, everything's downhill. So you've got to do that initial painful step of doing a full assessment, looking at your stuff, and going from there.
Yeah, and I can say this. I do an assessment on a regular basis. I have for years. My goal has been debt payoff for years because I was stupid in my 20s. And my most recent one unlocked, it was like I unlocked the debt payoff badge. I realized, because I own real estate, as you know, I realized if I sold one of my properties, it's gone. And I realized that the income from that property, because that's part of my income plan, was about my monthly debt interest support. And I was like, well, fudge. If I just sell that one, all it's doing is supporting the debt. If I sell it, I pay the debt off, and then I'm ahead of the curve with the other properties I have. So I'm listing a property for sale. But it took me 5 years to get there. 5 years of just like busting one after another after another.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's kind of like the first part is just coming to that realization. I mean, I had one point in time where I realized that I was unintentionally starting to get into debt.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I was spending more money than I should have. And I took a step back and was like, okay, first, I need to stop.
Yep. Stop the bleeding.
I need money. Like, just completely. If I don't need it, I don't buy it. And then the second thing I had to do was a lot of that, because of the way I run my finances, went on a credit card. And I realized that I actually had a balance on my credit card. I normally don't do that. And I was like, well, this sucks. Do I just pay it off or then take a hit on my savings, or do I just start paying? So I wound up just making the painful decision and just saying, I'm going to take a hit on my savings. I'm going to pay it and be done with this, and then make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, these things are the devil. So if you have credit card debt, do what I do. Throw them in your drawer. I have credit cards for travel, period. And they go in my drawer. That's where that one goes. Till next time I go out of town. And I have like 3 credit cards with me because you never know which one will be rejected because you charge it in a different city. And then they go back in that drawer when I get back, and I don't use them. I had to do that. I am apparently not able to use credit cards, so I don't. I use debit cards, not credit cards.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Because of my past experiences and the fact that I've learned from my past experiences, I actually do use credit cards on a regular basis. That is like
Great. When I'm mature enough to do that, I will do that too.
yeah.
I am not. You're
Well,
younger than me, but I'm less mature than you.
Well, I mean, the point that I was trying to make with that is like, I use that as like my primary thing because I've made mistakes in the past. I've learned from them, and now I'm using that to my advantage. I found a way to use that to my advantage.
Right.
So it just begs the point that everybody's different, and you need to figure out what works for you.
Okay, so financial independence.
Yep.
Cool.
So
That's all we got, right?
yeah, I think so. On top of that, I think my software is about to crap out.
Totally is. So cheers.
Cheers.